All men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of
If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear.
Make America great again.
the Big Mig.
Welcome back to the Big Mig Show. I'm your host, Lance Migliaccio, with my co-host, George Ballantine, my ride or die. And here we are, tip of the spear, edge of the knife. It's Friday, and you know how we do this show on Friday. Joining us today will be Dr. Michael Schwartz. You know, we got to go all in when he's coming in. Got all kinds of stuff happening. The news cycle, as usual, lots to cover. So listen, George, how are you, man? What's going on, brother?
Nothing much. Everything good. Copacetic. It's Friday. Thank God. Not that it means really much for me, but maybe some relaxation. Maybe we'll see. I doubt it, but still Friday. I'm gonna go out tonight.
You guys know the drill. Hit that follow, thumbs up, comment, share, and subscribe. You know how we do it. And of course, if you can do the paid subscription, that's always greatly appreciated. It's only $5 a month. Rumble ran tips, or of course, you can tip us in our Rumble wallet. They don't take anything out, which is great for creators. So if you guys want to throw us a couple of Bitcoin today to make our day, and go ahead and do it. It looks like Bitcoin's going to be on its way back up, as are the rest of the cryptos. Lots of activity. Of course, looks like the Clarity Act is moving along, but we still don't know what they've done. We don't necessarily know. Have they penalized this? Are we taking a beating on staking? We don't really know the details yet. George, you haven't seen anything yet on that, have you?
I have not. I've been searching. You know, if they're keeping it hidden from us, it's not good. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah. That's what you don't know can hurt you in this situation. There's no doubt about it. All right. Well, listen. You know, we love our sponsors. If you'd like to sponsor the Big Mig Show, you can hit us up over at info@thebigmig.com. Not only do we love crypto, you guys know that. George and I are crypto guys. We also love our gold and silver. The guys over at Genesis Gold Group are our go-to because you don't have to worry about any counterfeit gold coming out of Genesis Gold Group. They've been at it for decades. And the prepper bars, this is their invention. It's the perfect escape. These are real tangible forms of wealth, gold and silver. You can hold, trade, and trust. No government can seize it. No hacker can steal it. Time is ticking. And this is 62.2 grams of gold or silver. They've got them in stock. They come with an assay report, and that's really important nowadays. Tons of counterfeit gold. You got to be extremely careful on eBay and online. The Chinese are doing it. It's coming out of India. Really advanced stuff too. The way they're doing it, it's getting more and more difficult to test it. Of course, you need to act now and secure your prepper bars before the government rolls out their next move. And we've got 2 promo codes for you, so listen closely. Big Mig Silver is going to get you 10% off on the silver. That's Big Mig Silver for 10% off on the silver. And Big Mig Gold to get you 5% off on the gold. Big Mig Gold, 5% off at thebigmigbar.com. Don't wait until your money is worthless. Grab your prepper bars now before it's too late at thebigmigbar.com, thebigmigbar.com. Use those promo codes, but if you want to call them on the phone, you can also, 888-526-7154, 888-526-7154. George makes it easy. You can take a picture of that QR code. You can go there after the show. Don't go there now. Use those promo codes. Get a discount. Get some peace of mind. Thebigmigbar.com.
Yep. No singing. Nothing. Let's go.
No singing, George. You know George is hectic when he skips to singing because you know he loves to do the singing.
Not really.
All right. Dr. Michael Schwartz, author, great guy. If you're not following his channel, man, you guys should be. We love having him on the show. I look forward to these Fridays with him. Let's bring him in, George.
Hold on. Let me just fix something. Just give me a second. Let me just fix this.
Yeah. And we've got a lot. There's a lot happening here. I don't really know what to think of this, but it doesn't really surprise me. The show today, U.S. test scores in a generational free fall. Unbelievable. Lowest score since 1909. I thought we had the Board of Education to fix this. Of course, we know that's gone away, but they sure have done a shitty job. I guess our kids are too busy going on OnlyFans and
Mm.
looking online at the garbage that's on there, or maybe playing.
No.
games at
No,
home.
no. It's the school system, the teachers, the union. That's what it's about.
Well,
Listen,
I was going to mention DEI. That doesn't seem to be helping
that's
either.
just a small part of it. But listen, the Democrats want your kids to be stupid and dumber. They want to dumb them down because the dumber they are, the less they'll know the knowledge, the less they know about the Constitution, then the less they'll be able to contradict what politicians say. And politicians, they want more control. And how do they do that? By keeping your kids stupid so they don't know what's going on and can't challenge them. That's pretty simplistic about it.
Well, before we jump all the way in,
Say hello to Mike.
We do want to say hello to Mike. Mike, first of all, before we jump in, how are you, brother?
I'm well. I have a question that carried over from my audience. Your show is called The Big Mig because you're Lance Migliaccio, but why isn't it called The Big George? Why?
It's a weird thing.
No, I'll tell him. His wife came up with the name. His wife came up with the idea of having a show with him. I'm just along for the ride, bro.
All right.
He's
just
not really
curious.
along for the ride. He's part of the whole thing. Without George, I don't even know if I would have necessarily gone on with the show. It's one of those things. It's odd. I'll tell you, Mike, I never thought I'd be politically driven at all. I have to be honest. I've always, years ago, I had a different perspective of the world. I think differently now, but I didn't think that any of this was very important. I thought the politicians were going to do what politicians were going to do. And I sat on the sidelines for the longest time. And, I just couldn't sit there any longer. I was nauseated. When I worked as a contractor, I saw a lot of things that I knew probably shouldn't have been going on. And I participated, not some of my finest moments. I don't know what to think. And at the end of the big thing, I started to do the show. I started on a radio show. And
You know what they said? Somebody said, just call it The Big Balls. It covers both of us.
We could do that. We could do big balls, and maybe it would help with the advertising. And that's one of the things, Mike, I think sometimes we don't do a good enough job with advertising. I think to myself, are we not marketing well enough? And I found maybe the answer. This guy seems to figured out advertising for his niche. And I think he nailed it. I wanted to share this with the audience. You guys tell us, do we need some advertising like this to really propel the show forward on Rumble, YouTube, and locals, or maybe even online? Are we making a mistake because we're too conservative in our advertising? Let's play the clip.
I mean, listen, if I had a construction vehicle, a van going around, I might do something like this, but keep my work on the down low.
I don't break, I don't fall. Fire in my chest and my blood runs.
It's pretty cool, right?
I like that. I might do that.
So maybe we need something more unique, Mike. Maybe we need maybe on Fridays, especially, we could put the three of us on a toilet. Maybe next the time.
Actually, how about this? We could put a picture of Congress underneath there, shitting on Congress because they suck so bad. Flush them down the toilet. How about
Not
that?
a bad idea.
All right, I'm all game for it.
So, Mike, what do you think? These U.S. test scores are just in the tank. Freefall. Doesn't seem that they care. Our reading scores are the lowest point. We've got these kids online. I don't know if you've seen some of this dialogue and some of the things they do online. It's the dumbifying of America. Do you think George is accurate? Is it intentional? Are they doing it because they figure a dumb populace is easier to manipulate?
Part of it is, sure. I mean, I always say on my show, Democrats pander to dumb people. I mean, they know they can. You can't fool all the people all the time, but you can fool some of them, and most of them are Democrats. I went to my son's graduation the other day, not from college. His graduation from college is this Tuesday, but he's in a program called the Eagleton Institute for Politics, and he got to walk with 28 other kids. It's a prestigious group up at Rutgers, and they come from all the campuses to go to these classes once a week. And he graduated, and it was interesting to hear all the speeches from the senator who spoke to the professors who spoke to the kids that were chosen to speak. And the one theme I kept hearing over and over and over, they kept using the word democracy. Got to protect our democracy. We got to worry about our democracy. We got to make sure we covet our democracy. And I turned to Kelly and I gave her a look. I said, these kids went through 4 years of college and none of them know that we live in a constitutional republic. Then I'm walking around the building and I'm seeing the literature that says democracy. And Jaden later said to me, he goes, that's a buzzword for them because they know it pisses us off. It's amazing how like the U.S. flag pisses them off. The word democracy pisses them off. Then I watch these things on TikTok or Instagram of somebody asking a person a question about what year was the country founded? Who was the first president? And people have no idea. So you asked me about the test scores? No, it's not a surprise. I watch college age kids not know a damn thing about the country they live in, nothing about our history. So it doesn't surprise me one bit. An ignorant populace is perfect for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That democracy thing, I don't know if you remember those commercials that went around where they were duplicating online, and it went all over the news agencies. Somebody looped them all together. They go, and it's a threat to our democracy. It's a threat to our democracy. And they love that terminology, the word constitutional republic they don't like, because, of course, that's not what the founders and framers had in mind when they made that statement. It was supposed to be, independent republics would get together for safety and security. We weren't supposed to be a massive, bloated government. It was supposed to be a government of limited government, right? Limited control, 17 subject matters specific to the Constitution, and not beyond that. But they've done it with our statutes. They've done it in the judiciary. And they act like what the concept for the country was never correct. And George, we talk about founders and framers on the show. I'd have to say they're rolling over in their graves right now. Where we're at.
It's funny because Trump he said he gave a new name for Democrats. He's calling them Democrats, like Dumocrats.
I mean, it's a fun catchphrase, but at the end of the day, you have to look at the uniparty in D.C. I want to blame the Democrats. Of course, it's always the easiest target. But I don't know that I can just give them the sole blame. I mean, how is it not the Republicans and the Democrats? Aren't they all responsible for these test scores? Aren't they all responsible for in the halls of Congress saying democracy over and over again? How come nobody stands up and goes, hey, listen, jackass, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. Did you read the Constitution before you took this job, you idiot? I mean, I'm kind of appalled that the whole thing isn't just the division and chaos, the destroyers. Isn't the people that stay on the sideline passively and don't do anything, aren't they just as guilty, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but we just got off this conversation where I was saying, we were talking about, Rod Stewart, and Rod Stewart said some nasty things about our president to the king. And I said, we're the type of population, like us conservatives, we won't, put stuff out on Facebook and call the guy names and put up his picture. We just quietly go, that guy's an idiot, and won't listen to his music anymore. That is the silent majority. I mean, we are that, and that is part of the problem though, Lance, and I'm not saying to do that with Rod Stewart. I could care less what you do with your time, but when it comes to our kids and not standing up at school board meetings and not, pushing back against this agenda, they've slowly leaked it in to the curriculum and into the discourse, because we are a little bit passive. We are the type that, want to go to work and feed our families. We're not out running to meetings or somewhere to protest. That's kind of built into what, they do as part of their foundation.
Isn't that the operation, though? We talk about this quite a bit on our show. Isn't that part of the operation? You use social media influencers, you use these celebrities, and for some reason, the public gives them a higher standard, as if because they're a celebrity. Rod Stewart is a musician. I've never thought of him as a higher intellect. I've never thought of him as somebody that I would want to follow. Yeah, Rod Stewart, the singer.
Who cares? Why are you even bringing that part up?
My point would be exactly what you're saying, George. I could give a flying FUCK of exactly what these celebrities think. I don't think that the Kardashians, as example, I don't think they're good role models for our kids. But yet they're put on a pedestal, right? And let's face it, how did the Kardashians become big? From porn. Mm-hmm. I mean, basically, blowjobs and sex. And oh my gosh, it got leaked. I can't believe it got leaked. Mm-hmm. And the problem is the majority of the public falls for this garbage. And when I see celebrities that got paid to do things like we saw, especially during Ukraine, and a lot of the public didn't really pay attention to that when that came out. When Sean Penn got paid $5 million to do this trip to the Ukraine, like somehow he was doing it on his own dime and he cared about the country. Fuck Sean Penn. You know what I mean? A lot of people listened to The Rock when he got paid for the endorsement for that 30 seconds or so to endorse, Joe Biden. I think these paid celebrities, and I think that's part of the issue, isn't it? We've got laws on the books that says that if you're paid by a sponsor, and we do it, and we talk about Genesis Gold or Block Trust IRA or other sponsors that have been on the show, we let the public know that they actually paid for our advertising time. Not because we don't believe in the product. I don't just willy-nilly, and George doesn't say, oh, let's just get some sponsors. People come to us regularly, but there's a lot of products we won't take, or a lot of the messages that we won't take. If a meme coin company comes to us on the Crypto Power Hour, we don't say, sure, we'll promote your meme coin, even though we know you're trying to screw the public, you're trying to pump and dump. We don't do that. Sure, we'd like to have the money, but we don't sell our souls. But part of it is, I don't see the FCC, doing their obligation, which is supposed to enforce the fact that a social media influencer like Bill Crystal got paid I could never figure out how the guy would post so negatively. He was getting paid $8 million a year by USAID. I mean, think about that. If and of course he probably just hired some guy for 75 grand to control his social media, or 50 grand or whatever he gave him, and he just kept the rest of it. This goes on and on and on, and the American public just doesn't seem to grasp a lot of them. Not the people in your audience, Mike, not the people in our audience. They're thinkers. That's why they're here. But George, you tell me, don't you think that we're missing the enforcement side of this, which kind of takes these celebrities, takes these people, and says, oh yeah, this is great. We'd rather have them pay attention to the Kardashians, but our school grades are in the tank. George, what do you think about that?
I think we're missing the consequences of everything with when it comes to Democrats. I mean, why do they keep getting away with stuff? Well, I mean, first of all, I'm kind of happy that we don't have those people kind of like promoting. I don't want The Rock promoting Trump or none of that, because they're all fake anyway. So what good is that? I'd rather have the real authentic people promoting. That's what Democrats do. They keep want to use. That's all they can do. They have to pay people to promote them because nobody really believes them. And look, we keep going back down to this redistricting stuff and all that, the gerrymandering. The South Carolina governor called for a special session, and hopefully that will we'll get past their stupid Senate that don't want to do anything. And what's his name? What's that congressman that's been there for how many years? Clyde something, I don't know. He'll finally probably be out, but
James Clyburn.
Clyburn, yeah. I mean, it all comes down to consequences. When do we see any consequences for anything across the board, let's say, with government officials? Right? You guys were quiet on that one.
Well, I hear you guys talking about this, and the one thing that keeps going through my mind is the media. I always say they're complicit in this because people are fickle, right? You guys are a little different. You'll go against the grain. You'll say your own thing. You don't usually give a shit what everybody else thinks. But most people are the opposite. They care what everybody else thinks. A crowd attracts a crowd. So where do they go to find, the semblance of that and what's really, makes them feel better about the choices they make? They go to the media and they watch what's happening. And if the media is all saying, oh, this is kind of the way everybody else is thinking, everybody goes along with that. The media has been covering up for Democrats for years. So it doesn't matter how irreverent, it doesn't matter how illogical. You can't, by the way, expect illogical people to understand logic. That's why I always tell people, don't expect people to react the way you expect them to react. You're just going to be very disappointed. So we're sitting here watching people like you just mentioned, Bill Crystal. He used to be a staunch conservative, and you say, oh, now he's going off in a different direction. You wonder why. Well, there was something. There was a catalyst there that made him go the other way. $8 million to Lance's point. But the media is complicit in covering for these narratives. They're complicit in making people think a certain way. And until the media comes around, which they're never going to, you're going to see this forever. You're going to see that, at least in our lifetime, you're going to see people kind of gravitate toward this left-wing lunacy progressive narrative.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you, Mike. What I think is really awful is that the public in general, they go to these media sources, too many of them. Even my mother at this point still doesn't watch regular news. She doesn't really follow alt media. She doesn't really necessarily agree with me on my political views. And it's because she doesn't really investigate. She gets it handed to her like she always did, because when I was a kid, we had an old black and white TV, and ABC, NBC, CBS. They were always given the credit that was the news. But it wasn't. It was manipulated early on. NGOs, foundations, super PACs, they pay. And my argument is exactly that. There's never any consequences for that. I feel like a news show and a congressional member should have to start anything whenever they open their mouths and say, by the way, we're paid by George Soros, so we're paid by this military industrial complex, or I'm paid by this pharmaceutical company. They get on there and they pontificate, and they never talk about why they're doing what they're doing and why they're pushing back. For example, the Clarity Act. The banks are working behind the scenes. They don't want to lose their stranglehold on us. They want to charge us this massive amount of interest on credit cards. They want to give us low return on any money that's secured. And they're complaining that if the crypto world is allowed to do staking at higher levels of returns on real world assets or get higher or lower interest rate credit cards, they're going to all tank. And my thing is, I thought that was what the world was supposed to be built on, competition. But we don't see that. We don't see 60 Minutes when they manipulate Kamala Harris's interview. Why were they allowed to continue? Why didn't the FCC, say, you manipulated this, you're not providing the product that when you got your license from us, but they don't do it. They have total immunity and impunity. And the truth is, too many people look at them as the real source. They don't come to alt media. They don't follow the Big Show or the Mike Schwartz show. They don't go on to YouTube, and instead they turn on CNN and they regurgitate this trash because they know they can get away with it. And they keep tricking us.
Lance, you say the FCC like it's its own thing because, you got to remember these are all political appointments. So who's FCC?
Yeah.
It was Biden's FCC at the time. And they're all political people running it. They're not going to go against the grain. They're not going to do to piss off the people that put them in that spot. So, I mean, that's part of the problem, though. I mean, and then we go to some of these towns and places have nonpartisan elections, which we all know are partisan anyway. But there's partisanship in everything. Works, even the judiciary. That's the one that blows everybody's mind. They think the judiciary is fair and balanced. It's probably one of the worst ones out there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We talk about that constantly. But look, let's talk about this for a second. The teachers' unions, right? They want to push this bullshit about how there's so many different genders and they've got to add 50 different pronouns. I can't even keep up with the number of them. And that's not, accurate, right? It's a manipulated fact. It's a creation. It's a fantasy. It's a mental health crisis. The teachers' unions, what a total piece of shit that is. I mean, if anybody should get abolished immediately, should be, by the way, we gave the teachers' unions a chance. Sorry, that's done. We're canceling all of them. I often have believed that in prior years, not so much now, that teachers were underpaid. I felt like we should focus on, getting a higher quality of teaching. But they're doing it at the higher institutions. It doesn't matter, Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Rutgers, I hear, just based on your discussion. And we're allowing it to happen. And our government, looks and they watch these numbers tank and they don't think, okay, well, what's causing them to tank? Was it the Board of Education? Was it the teachers union? Is it the manipulation of facts? They don't seem to care where all the other countries, you go on TikTok in China and you're not going to find a bunch of bullshit challenges like licking toilet seats or a bunch of, DEI transgender idiots trying to groom our kids. They don't allow that shit in China on TikTok. It's about, educational challenges, physical fitness challenges. It's a completely different product. Now, I believe it was an operation by the CCP, but George had high hopes for TikTok that somehow the U.S. ownership was going to change it and make it a better product. And I still think it's a complete piece of shit. I just see it. I see what they're doing with our kids. I see the little short
Actually,
clip.
I haven't seen those stupid type of clips.
No, you haven't seen as much of it. Are they not putting that in the algo as much as they used to?
I don't know. I haven't seen any of it actually. Those dumb clips with kids and stuff. So I don't know. I still think. I
saw a transgender guy going to Disney that was floating around. This guy.
But Lance, you're always gonna have that stuff, no matter what. That same stuff you see on TikTok, you see on IG. It's in Snapchat. It's everywhere. It's just TikTok became more popular.
But George, do you think it's
you take down TikTok, Lance? Another thing will come up, or it'll all navigate to somewhere else.
But is that a good enough reason to not try to fix it? Is it not a good enough reason to try to maybe challenge those people, just like we did? Like, look, Donald Trump got a settlement from 60 Minutes, right? Why wasn't there a massive class action picked up by some attorney against 60 Minutes for the lies they presented to the American public? Why wasn't there a massive class action to force the enforcement agencies to do something about it? But instead, it just got swept under the rug.
Because you have to go. So you, Mike, anybody, get a bunch of people and go to a lawyer and start it. That's the way those things start. Somebody has to do it. Go ahead, Mike.
I have a little bit of experience with this, but I can't talk about it right now because I'm in the middle of something. But these cases take a long time. There are different standards for different types of people, and most people don't have the patience, the time, the money to go do it, especially if it's one or two statements. But if it's overwhelming, and I'm glad to see Donald Trump go and do this and start putting people in their place, because otherwise people feel emboldened and they feel like they can just do this stuff. By the way, do you mind if I read a quick headline, because it literally just broke. And I laughed at it when I was reading it because, of course, they tried with COVID. They tried now with hantavirus. This just broke. It says a newly highly contagious Ebola outbreak has been confirmed in eastern Congo province with 246 suspected cases and 65 fatalities so far. So just throwing that one out there, because, and I told my audience the other day, because my audience, I get mad at them sometimes. I love them to death. I know you're watching. But, I wrote books on this stuff, and I talk to people about this every day. You got to understand the science about these things. COVID is real. Hantavirus is real. It doesn't mean that everything you see is going to be a thing. But the Democrats have a way that we witnessed during COVID of taking something that is, puts people in fear. Because, again, as to what we were talking about with George, Democrats pander to dumb people, and they realize that they're more emotionally fallible. And they will take a situation like what headline I just wrote or what you just saw about hantavirus and try to put everybody in such fear that they can control the population, which we saw during COVID. So I don't want people, when I read headlines like that, like, oh, here comes another one, a fake thing. They're not fake. These things are real, but they're as real as some of the things you haven't heard of that I probably mentioned. I had a doctor on my show the other day. She was an epidemiologist. And I said to her, have you ever heard of OC43 or NL63? She said, no. And I'm like, what do you mean, no? You're an epidemiologist. Those are 2 of the 7 coronaviruses we test for. These are things, though, that weren't exploited during political seasons that made people go nuts. But I just thought that headline was interesting because I know what my audience is going to be talking about next week. Ebola.
And how is Ebola? How does a human get Ebola virus?
That I don't know how that one binds. I'm going to have to do a little research on it. But Ebola is another. I believe that's RNA strand. I believe it's envelope. Let me do a little bit of research on that because I've been the last couple weeks. I've been obviously studying. I can tell you everything you want to know about hantavirus right now because I did a lot of research on that to kind of see where we were in terms of what this could potentially turn into.
What is it? Hantavirus? H-U?
Yeah. H-A.
But look, let me jump in here for a second. And that's part of it, right? I mean, listen, how many of us got attacked for putting out real information during the pandemic? We got attacked for called medical disinformation and all the rest of it. There was a major attack on all of us. And they've kind of conditioned the audience. Even the other day, a judge got challenged because she was trying to force everybody to wear a mask in her courtroom. It was in Texas, and the Supreme Court in Texas was telling her she needed to stop it instantly. Now, that's what let's talk about the judiciary for a second. They've allowed a lot of this stuff to happen and they propelled a lot of stuff to happen. I think they promoted it. Shouldn't they be the arm of justice when it comes to accountability? But we don't see it. There isn't any accountability. When I voted for Donald Trump and I voted for this administration, I believed that I was voting for accountability, transparency, accountability, and consequences. I thought by now, over a year in, that we would have a massive amount of arrests. I thought there'd be some accountability for the pandemic. This gain of function research, Anthony Fauci got a pass the other day for lying to Congress. But I can tell you this for the audience, that if Mike, myself, and George had lied in front of Congress, we would have already been arrested. They did it to the right many times, but we don't see this accountability. Fauci so far just continues to roll along under this blanket pardon he's got. Even we don't know whether he got the auto pen or he got a legitimate one, but nobody's moved forward with that. What happened to all that auto pen stuff? We thought that was going to be, turned over, that those pardons were going to be stopped dead in their tracks. And that just reinforces, we use this analogy a lot where we talk about a bartender that steals. They steal one drink one night, you don't catch them. Then they steal a couple of drinks the next night, and it goes on. And by the end of the month, it's not just a drink, you just paid their rent. If they can get away with it. If you don't make them accountable, that'll happen. I've owned bars and restaurants, and it's an ongoing thing. We used to weigh the liquor to catch the process. You'd get a new bartender, you pay attention to the station, and you would weigh the liquor per station. But it's a complicated thing. You got to spend money to do it. And this is the problem with Congress. This is the problem with the Democrats, not only them, but the Republicans, government officials. If you and I did even a tenth of the crimes they're responsible for, like insider trading, if the SEC found out that Lance Migliaccio was insider trading, I can guarantee you they would already be kicking in the front door. They wouldn't wait. They wouldn't delay. I'd get indicted and I would suffer the consequences. But they continue to be empowered because they've got this ultimate immunity and impunity across the board. And, where are the teachers' unions right now in these numbers? They knew these numbers were going down prior to even that we knew they were going down. They see the numbers. And what do? They
want them to be low, to teachers' unions, because when the kids are stupider, they don't challenge the teachers.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I
Let's
have to be
go
honest.
on.
When I was in college, I wasn't always the most popular with my professors
Gee,
because I felt like
can't
I was
imagine
Rodney
why.
Dangerfield at back to school. You know, I'd
You?
be like, what about the payoffs to the unions? What about you
No
can't
way.
do business? That doesn't how business works. How are you going to run a business? I would hear these professors pontificate, you know, and I took economics and all kinds of business courses, and I'd hear them pontificating about business, and then I would say, you know, I have a question: how many businesses do you own, or how many businesses do you run in your lifetime? And you know, and of course, I'd get into these confrontations because I just wasn't willing to go along. I always had that kind of a challenging thing as a kid. I always questioned what I was told. Like, well, why? I always wanted to know why. My mom, I probably drove my mom and dad nuts. I was never accepting of, well, they would give me, if they gave me a just because answer, I would be like, no, that doesn't make any sense to me just because. I don't accept that. And it didn't matter what it was. And I think it was probably because of my upbringing. You know, I was around a bunch of mob guys as a kid, and I would see them challenge people constantly. You know, well, that doesn't make any sense. And of course, it was based on maybe not being able to pay their bill on betting, as an example, because these guys were running numbers and bookies and gambling. And I saw a lot of stuff like that, and I just thought, well, that they're right. That doesn't make any sense. If the guy's out doing this and this and this, he should be able to pay his bill. Maybe that's not a great comparison, but my point is, and we're going to play the clip, I think, next. Abolish teachers' unions would seem to be an obvious choice. If they're doing a shitty job, why are we allowing them? If DEI, all this garbage in there, they're so busy wanting to paint their hair pink and walk into the room with piercings in their noses and all the other crap they're doing. That seems to be the top priority. This false, you know, persona they portray. Play the clip, and then I want to hear what you guys have to say about that.
I thought we were just going to go on to the next segment. Okay.
And the biggest drops have been among the lowest achieving students. A new report stating, quote, grade 8 reading scores are now at their lowest point since 1990, and grade 4 is at pre-2023, or rather pre-2003 levels. The slowdown in learning coincides with a dismantling of test-based accountability and a rise in social media use. It is not clear which was most influential. Meanwhile, Education Secretary Linda McMahon is highlighting the importance of school choice.
The most important thing we can do for our children is to make sure they can read and do math. We have failed them. The most innovation that we have had in programs across the country so far, and these successes I noted, were innovations at the state level. So let's make sure we are supporting those efforts by giving the money to the states and letting them be able to spend the money where they know it needs to be spent.
Right now, over 30 states offer.
Transition, George.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd like to see the state governors take some pride in this, but let's move along here. We got a lot to cover today. So, George, what do we got
Well,
next?
let's just talk real quick about the senators. I mean, I'm shocked that they did this. They unanimously approved resolution to withhold their pay during future government shutdowns. Shocking. I'm shocked they all agreed to that.
Well, Schumer went with it. I mean, they're like the Borg. You know, the Republicans were going to go with it. They were waiting to see what Chucky told them to do. And Chucky said, well, we don't want to look any worse than we already do right now. So screw it. We'll go along with it. So
what happens when the House holds it up? Did the Senate still not get paid?
The Senate is a different animal as far as how they get paid. They just direct their, whatever the equivalent of the human, what do you call that?
No. If there's, okay, both the House and the Senate have to approve a bill for whatever funding, right? Sometimes the House, votes the bill, it goes to Senate. Senate makes changes, right? Then it has to go back.
This isn't a bill for all public employees. This is just Senate rules within their own committee that they voted for. So they're going to put all that money is going to go into escrow. This isn't a bill for both houses and federal. This is just how the Senate rules are going to handle their pay during a shutdown.
Okay, I know that. But listen to what I'm saying. When they go back and forth because they can't agree and the government shut down, if Senate changes something, they vote, okay, now it has to go back to the House. And if it's stuck in the House because they don't want to, they can't come to agreement and the government's still shut down, does that still affect the Senate? Or Senate's like, hey, we voted yes. It's on the House.
In terms of what, George?
Forget it.
No, in terms of their paycheck, what he's suggesting, and I understand what he's saying. I speak George Ballantine. Here's the deal. What he's saying is if the Senate said yes, right, that they're agreeing to approve a resolution and that's gone forward, if it gets held up in the House, does that still hold up the paycheck?
From what I understand, the Senate voted for their own paychecks that during a shutdown, they're not going to get paid. The money's going to go into escrow. It doesn't have to go to the House for a vote. The House can determine their own rules and what they want to do. If they want to follow suit and what the Senate did,
we're not talking about those rules. We're talking, okay, Mike, let me do it in baby steps. The Senate voted to withhold pay during government shutdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's across the board. So, for the government to be funded, both the House has to pass it and the Senate has to pass it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For a bill to be funded, yeah.
Okay. So if the Senate approves a bill and for some reason has to go back to the House of Representatives to vote on it because the Senate made changes and the House is holding it up because they don't like it, so the government is still shut down, that means the Senate is still not getting paid?
Yeah.
Okay.
From what I understand, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's not, they're not going to, well, look, they can change their rules at any time. And they only need, I don't think you need a proof majority on that one. You could do it by a majority vote. They can change these rules at any time. It's more ceremonial than anything. If they live up to it the next time a government shuts down, the thought is that this is going to sway senators into not pushing future shutdowns. They're going to do everything they can to avoid it because they know that their pay could be on the line if they don't go back and change the rules. I would love to see the House do something, but at the end of the day, it's ceremonial. It's not like a permanent, vote, and they could change it at any moment.
Here's the thing that I don't like, because this just came out too today. So the Senate parliamentarian, right? The Senate voted, for bill funding for ICE, Border Patrol. This chick, the Senate parliamentarian, rules against major sections of that reconciliation bill. Now it's holding it up. None of us voted for this lady. We voted for our senators, every state. So how the hell does she get to hold the thing up? Who the hell is she? This has come up before, though. She's been there since, I thought it was 2009, this current parliamentarian, and everybody wants to say, oh, she was, an Obama holder. It's not really the way it works, but the Senate doesn't always know all the rules. They have a parliamentarian who can kind of look at the rules. So if they do something that's a little bit off kilter or not in line with where the Senate has authority, the parliamentarian is supposed to step in. Apparently this woman has a lot, I think it's is it the same woman? Because if it's the same one that came up, she's got a lot of experience with this. And you're right, though. I mean, look, they can be replaced, but that becomes then a political type of appointment. This person is supposed to be nonpartisan to say, you guys aren't playing by the rules and you have to fix certain things. That's the understanding that I have with the parliamentarian.
That parliamentarian, how about having some nuts and saying that they don't get paid if they don't balance the budget?
She's a broad. She ain't got no nuts.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's my argument, right? Because again, okay, fine, when it's shut down, but what about the fact that we can't seem to balance this budget, that we just keep spending more money? We're $40 trillion in debt. And see, that's the issue. You got a bunch of career politicians in here that just can't move things along because there's shitty business people. They're shitty people. They want to stay in power forever. My thing is that many of them, look, let's face it. How about Maxine Waters as an example? Maybe we should talk about that. How about she's older than dirt? And she's talking about, somebody said, can you see you've done so much. Some ass kiss reporter goes to her and starts talking about this. And I'm kind of blown away by it, right? That she almost alludes to the fact that she's going to just stay in there. What is she, 87 years old? I mean, and that's the issue. We've got a bunch of people in there that weren't good at their jobs to begin with, and now they just stay in there forever. Nobody votes them out. I don't know if it's because the voting system is so broken, but here we are with people that I think the same thing of the Supreme Court. I think there's got to be some age limits, because don't we think mental acuity comes into play at a certain point? Isn't that an outstanding issue?
Well, yeah. I mean, the guy on our side, easy to point to is Mitch McConnell, but then you had he's falling asleep. You just had AOC just call for packing the Supreme Court again. And by the way, the answer to your question is Elizabeth McDonough is the parliamentarian. She's been in the role since 2012, and her role is
2009.
I'm looking at it right. That's what I thought. It says here, I'm looking at it now, unless I got erroneous information, since 2012. And her job is to be a nonpartisan procedural advisor to the U.S. Senate. So she interprets Senate rules and precedents, advises the presiding officer during debates. So he does all the things we were just talking about. So you're not supposed to be a partisan person, whether she is or not. No idea.
What she's saying is the way it was, the language of the bill has to be changed. I don't know. That's what I'm reading the article too, but
these
whatever.
senators aren't taking a hit because the money's just going to be held in escrow. They're just going to get a big lump sum when the shutdown's over. It isn't like they said we won't get paid at all. That money just gets, not accounted for. We just won't get the money for that.
I mean, the same thing like the government employees that don't get paid when it's shut down. They all get it retro.
But do you think you should get paid for doing a shitty job? I mean, you don't get paid at any other business. I'm sure Mike doesn't pay employees that are doing a shitty job. I'm sure
we do a lot sometimes, only because I don't have time to fire them. I'm kidding, of course. I don't want my employees don't listen to the show, so they'll be fine. No, I know what you mean, Lance. I mean, they don't live under the same guidelines.
Maybe that's why you have issues, Mike, with your employees, because they don't listen to the show.
Well, that's what I tell them. Watch the damn show. Why are you calling me in the middle of my live?
Oh, wait, but you know what? I think there's a new rule over at Mike's business. It's mandatory. I've got Mike's books right here. I'm going to hold them up.
No.
What?
He's getting punished right now.
Can I give Mike's books a plug?
Here, let me put you on single so you can plug the books. Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, let's plug his books. I mean, common sense would tell you read a book from a guy that has common sense. For the staff over at Mike's business, there's a new priority. You must read all of Mike's books. It's mandatory reading, and you're going to have to buy them. We're not going to give you the books because we want you to invest some of your money into having a higher intellect. And, again, even for the audience, these are great books to read. A guy from common sense, a smart guy. But look, that's Congress is known for being smart. Do you know that right now they're saying that AOC appears to be their top pick to run for president of the United States?
That's great.
This is an ex-bartender that has said more stupid things than
I'm loving it.
I mean, her and Jasmine Crockett. It's a close race for who says more dumb things.
Speaking of Crockett, she's been awfully quiet lately too.
Yeah,
I don't know. Newsom's what is his old chief of staff?
Whatever. I saw that she just pled guilty.
Pled guilty to was it fraud, money fraud, or some shit?
Something like that. But these things roll out. They're like Teflons, the Democrats. They don't care because they got 40% of the public that just kind of rolls with whatever they say. It doesn't matter. Look at what's going on with the Pratt race.
You know who's going to be? Hold on. You know who's going to be the front runner for the Democrats? Hold on. The front runner for the Democrats is going to be Shapiro from Pennsylvania.
That would be a logical choice because it reminds me of when, and I think I said this last time I was on your show, when you had Bernie Sanders was in the lead, and then the whole party was like, "Holy shit, this guy's going to win!" And then they all got behind Biden, who was like in left field. He wasn't even even being mentioned as like a guy.
No,
and then all
Biden
of a sudden,
that was with Clinton, wasn't it? When they sabotaged him.
It was the year that they were running against Trump, right? It was Biden. It was Biden that they kind of anointed because, that also in that election, Bernie Sanders was doing well. But when you have a candidate who's rising, because he gets a lot of support, he gets a ton of people from grassroots that come up with the $27, the oligarchy, all that nonsense crap. And he's been on the road with AOC, so it doesn't surprise me that she is riding his coattails, doing all these events with him and rising up in the polls. She is kind of like a Bernie Sanders. So the next thing you know, they're going to pull somebody out and say, no, we need somebody who's proven, who looks good. You're totally on point, George, with the Shapiro or Gavin Newsom, but you're going to see exactly the same thing happen. They're going to anoint somebody.
I tell you what, the Democratic primaries is going to be a fun clown show to watch, though, if she's in there and stuff. She'll get eaten alive. She's tarded. But I want to go to the next thing here, though, because Trump was in China and he did an interview. He's with Hannity, and two of the things, especially the one I dislike. First, he said it's good to have 500,000 foreign Chinese students in the U.S. But the second statement, and it's good for China to purchase U.S. farmland. He's saying otherwise farm prices would collapse. No. Why would farm prices collapse if China didn't buy farmland?
This was an incredibly dumb thing to say. We don't blindly follow Donald Trump. We support Donald Trump, but when he does something that I think is idiotic, when you start having a foreign adversary buy your farmland, which of course I think is a national security issue, and especially when they start picking out properties, and their locations are so strategic, they're next to military bases, they're next to DARPA. You have to start questioning what exactly they're doing and why would we allow this to continue? So for Donald Trump, this was a complete fuck up. I mean, this was seriously stupid. I don't have any idea why he said this. I've never agreed with any of this. And I don't think the American public agrees with it. The control of our farmlands, the control of our food processing by foreign adversaries doesn't ever seem to be a good idea to me. I don't, let me put it this way. In reverse, if I go to try to buy farmland right next to a military base in China as a U.S. citizen, do you think China's going to allow me to do that? Anybody out there is Jinping, is he going to go ahead and say, Lance, go ahead, we're going to let you buy that huge swath of farmland right next to one of our most sensitive military installations? Go ahead, buy it. It's okay. Does anybody think that they're going to allow that to happen? Because I sure as hell don't.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, only because you brought up Donald Trump. And then, I don't know, George, we could talk about this at a breakfast, but I kind of wish Donald Trump would stop going to other countries and send over Marco Rubio or something. And look, I know Donald Trump's a strong guy, but I think at heart, he's a populist. He always wants to make everybody happy. He always wants to appear, amazing. So if he goes over there and the next thing you know, you're like, oh shit, what did he give up? Like, what is he talking about? I don't know. What's he doing with Xi? They kept calling him Xi on ABC. I said, no, it's they. Or them is appropriate. Can't call him President Xi. It's they. Anyway, so I do worry about that sometimes, because it's like they want to appear like they're making everybody happy, capitulating to everybody's nonsense, and then I'm like, oh shit, maybe we should have just said Rubio so that Donald Trump can kind of not hide, but he doesn't have to be the guy who's promising everybody everything. You said he came out and said that.
Yeah, we've got the clip.
I got the clip here. Let's play the clip. Come on, bro. You think I fake? This ain't no fake news site. Shame on you, Mike Schwartz.
I would assume I'm in Beijing. If I wanted to buy property near one of their military installations, I don't think President Xi.
No, they wouldn't let you. I don't. Look, it's not that I love it. You want to see farm prices drop? You want to see farmers lose a lot of money? Just take that out of the market. But they've had a lot of land for a long time. Obama did nothing about it. They bought a lot of it during the Obama administration. He did nothing about it. As far as the students, it's 500,000 students they come, good students. I could tell them, I don't want any students, is a very insulting thing to say to a country. They would then immediately go out and start building universities all over China. But if you don't have those students, good students, by the way, if you don't, and we do another thing, if they're good and they want to stay in America, we won't give them a green card and things like that. And that, not only them, but other countries. But if you want to see a university system die, take 500,000 people out of it. And the ones that won't be hurt are the top schools. The top schools will do fine, but your lower schools, the ones that don't do quite as well, they'll be dying all over the place. I frankly think that it's good that people come from other countries and they learn our culture, and many of them want to stay here. I think it's good. Not everybody agrees with me, and it doesn't sound like a very conservative position. And I'm as conservative. I'm a conservative guy. I'm really a common sense guy, I think, more than a conservative guy. I think MAGA is common sense. People understand we want strong borders, we want strong military, we want good education, we want low interest rates, we want. But
I think people would argue they worry about, do they have nefarious intentions?
Sure, I know, and we worry about that. And honestly, they do things to us and we do things to them. It's a very, very fine line, the whole thing with students. So they have 500,000 students, and our university system does great. It does great. You want to screw it up? Take 500,000 students out, and you're gonna see bankruptcies at the lower end of good colleges, but they're not known or whatever. You're gonna have a lot of problems. So it's something I'm always looking at, but it's a very insulting thing to tell a country, we don't want your people in our schools. I mean, it really is. Now, I'll have people say, oh, that's a terrible thing. It is a very insulting thing. And it's very interesting. It's something didn't come up today. Came up last time. But I will tell you that school systems don't want that to happen, because you won't have much of a school system.
All right, Mr.
You know what's hold on, Lance. Hold on. You know what, Lance? Hold on. You know what's insulting? Insulting to Americans, letting these Chinese students, who are a bunch of them are fucking foreign spies. They steal intellectual property. How many students were trying to bring in a bioagent got caught recently? Like what, in 6 months? I mean, come on. and then give our farmland? That's insulting. I feel insulted.
I feel like the students could be vetted, but he completely avoided the farmland question. We've seen the installations. We had a map. We did a show about it. We put it up there about where they bought the farm, and this seems very strategic. And I think that it's a national security concern. He avoids the farm question, talking about, well, farmland prices would collapse. So you're telling me because a foreign individual wants to pay more for farmland, wants to inflate the price because they're using government money to buy them, that's okay. It's going to help protect the farmers because they're going to get more for their farmland because we're selling it to a foreign country. That was the dumbest answer I think he possibly could have elicited. And shame on, this is what I hate about the interviews. Donald Trump's not going to come on for an interview on the Mike Short show. He's not going to come on the Big Mig show because I'm tired of these softball shithead reporters. It doesn't matter who they are, that just let him get away with it. I said, well, I think you're avoiding the question about the farmland, Donald Trump. It's been proven they're buying it next to our sensitive military installations. Do you not think that's a national security concern that we're allowing a foreign adversary, and they are an adversary? It doesn't matter whether you had a good trip to China, right? I think a lot of it was, there was a lot of discussions about crypto behind the scenes. I think there was a lot of intent there by Donald Trump. I think he's often worried about his finances. Those are always a top priority, and I understand how that works. But don't you think, for both of you guys, and then George, you tell me, don't you think that he completely avoided that question? And this is what happens in mainstream media. This shithead here didn't say to him, well, you avoided the question, Donald Trump. I asked you about the farmland. You want to talk about students? I understand that would be an insult to say we don't want Chinese students. Maybe we need to do a better job of vetting the Chinese students. If it's a student that's connected to a high-level CCP government official, maybe that person has other nefarious thoughts behind coming here to be a student. Maybe they aren't coming here just for the education, as George pointed out.
You know, somebody in chat said something, TSM money. Actually, Congress should do something about it. Not allow any foreign countries to buy farmland. Because let's face it, if they own the farmland, enough of it, they could take all that crop and send it back home and screw the American people. You know, look, electricity, oil, anything, infrastructure, food, three biggest commodities.
Food processing.
Look at the data centers. You see in Georgia what's going on? They want to build. They're trying to do eminent domain and take people's farmland to build these data centers. Is that crazy? And how is a town or state going to allow that? A data center? Fuck's a data center got to do with anything as far as eminent domain? Find another place to build that shit. Don't take the people's. It's a farm. It's happening in Georgia. It's crazy.
Well, of course, they'd love to take the farmland because it's level, right? It's already been it's already been cleared. It's cheaper.
I'd blow
to
the
put
shit out of that place.
There. Yeah, but I mean, but of course, I understand why they want to do it. But does that seem like the best choice? Why not make the data center go clear their own land? There's plenty of property. Listen, when you look at the map of the United States, you look where the population lives. There's lots of empty land all over the United States. But why would a data center and why would a state pick farmland? Well, of course, it's already been cleared. It's nice and flat and level. It saves a bunch of money. They can go in and they can just build on it. But it doesn't make any sense for us. We've already seen these crazy food prices at the grocery store. I don't care what they say. I don't see that somehow the American people, yeah, sure, we're going to have it's going to be the biggest stock market ever. Well, if you can't pay for groceries, how the fuck are you going to have money to invest in the stock market? Mike.
There's a lot to unpack there. First of all, Donald Trump is his best own filibuster because he knows how to run out of clock on an interview. And you saw him start talking about students over and over and over, just repeating himself to avoid that question if he was trying to avoid it. But maybe he's avoided it for a different reason. And I always look at the context of a couple things. Number one, let's take out any conflict of interest that he may have with crypto or anything else. And let's just say this is about America and the country. I look at the timing of his remarks. And right now, if you look at where we are with the visit to China, you look at where we are with the war in Iran, I firmly believe, and I talked about this on my show this morning, that he may be trying to keep oil prices artificially inflated over $90 for a certain period of time because you could break the oil market that way. I think the timing of what you see in Iran right now is important. If you're trying to do that and get people to leave OPEC, you already saw the UAE do it. I talked about it again on my show. If you are looking at the timing of him going over there, the timing of this war kind of wrapping up and trying to keep those prices inflated, he is trying to get China to be dependent upon U.S. energy. I firmly believe that that is the overall big plan. So anything else, any other question about farmland or students, he's probably going to avoid and dance around, which is what I just saw in that interview. That is if that is the plan with the energy markets. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things. People in the chat talking about the difference between MAGA and America First. And there's a lot of issues that I want to see get taken care of. I was just talking about the ICE agents. We don't see much of anything going on, especially after Good and Preddy with those incidents in Minneapolis. A little plug for my show. Next Wednesday, I've got J.J. Carroll coming back on, 24 years in Border Patrol, and just did a little time at ICE. He just got fired from ICE. He's got a show and he's got books out like I do. So now, too many things in the pot, but he says he's got the real deal now, having been at ICE and having arrested hundreds of these illegals to let us know what's going on. And maybe that system has eroded itself. But as far as China's concerned, I think there might be a bigger plan that we're just not seeing the full picture of the puzzle right now.
Well, of course, they don't want BRICS to get any more leverage. It's been pretty quiet on the whole BRICS front. What does he want to do with OPEC? I don't know. It's interesting what's happening with OPEC. There seems to be, for the first time, some real division there. You're right about UAE. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the plan. I don't know, George.
There's always a part of the plan or a bigger part of the plan that we don't know about that Trump does, or even politicians or other presidents do. What it is, we'll see. I mean, we just got China to buy oil from us from Alaska, which is closer en route than from Iran. All right, great. I mean,
that's not just them, though, George. It's everybody. I mean, if we can become the dominant power of energy in the world, and we kind of then start controlling the prices a little bit more. I mean,
you can't control the prices of oil unless you leave OPEC. That's a problem.
And I think that's what they're trying to do is break OPEC.
Well, they can't. We can leave. UAE just did it. Why not leave? If we have oil in this country and we're getting it out, but then we're importing oil from other countries and we're paying more money, that's the stupidest thing. Take care of the Americans. Yeah. Americans first. You want to be MAGA? America first, whatever you want to call it. Give us our oil here in this country at the cheapest price possible. You want to talk about American support and your approval rating skyrocketing? Man, forget about it. He'd go up to 70, 75% with that alone, I would say. Because you're going to hit people in their pocketbooks, and that's across the board. Especially people in rural areas or inner cities. Oh, my God. Imagine gas at $1.99 or $1.50.
Right? Should be. Well, we haven't built a damn refinery since the 1970s because of the, all the environmentalist wackos, and they're at 96%, and that's part of it as well. But when you look at, what just happened in the Strait of Hormuz, you forget that argument of what's happening here at home with our refineries, and you look at, it's a commodity, and it's based on a global market. So just this little interruption with the Strait of Hormuz where 20% goes through, the prices went from 65 to like 120. I don't know what they're hovering at today. I'll take a quick peek, but it's getting tougher for folks. I just got back from the Wake Up Patriots convention, and everybody wants to trust the plan, but everybody's tired of paying $75 to fill the tank.
On a refinery, I'm looking at the last one that we built from like scratch was 1977. I know they've worked on other ones, but there is a new one coming out in $300 billion facility in South Texas.
Good.
It's scheduled to break ground. Yeah.
But isn't that where the priority should be? We're hearing about data centers, and I understand the push on AI. I understand why they want these data centers. I get it. But shouldn't the oil refineries be part of that? Shouldn't that also be? Isn't that a national security interest? I mean, I always see the money being put in places, and they're spending money nonstop, willy-nilly, and all sorts of things that I don't agree with. But then when it comes down to these major issues, right? And we're all paying. We're paying at the grocery store. We're paying at the pump. No wonder the American public doesn't have extra time to get politically motivated to help file class action suits. They're trying to cover their nut, and the nut's not going down. I thought that for sure you'd see a major decrease in rental prices, but I haven't seen it. I thought when all these immigration deportations were going to occur, that the rental market prices would take the hit. I don't see that happening yet. And I'm surprised with as many people as already been deported. But the pushback and when common sense isn't so common, we're seeing it over and over again now. What do you guys think about this? Ratcliffe met with Cuban officials in Havana, and he wanted to deliver a message. First of all, does anybody here how do you feel about Ratcliffe? I don't trust him.
Whatever. I was going to say, why send Ratcliffe of all people?
I don't trust him. Do you trust Ratcliffe?
That's a job. That's a job for fucking Marco Rubio, man.
I agree. I don't understand why Rubio didn't go.
Because he was in China with Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. But was that the best use of Marco Rubio? Ratcliffe had the information about a stolen election. He sat on the information. They made him the CIA director. I don't think he can be trusted. I think he's another holdover that got moved into a position. I don't know if the story about them snatching up a bunch of documents out of Tulsi Gabbard's office was accurate. It seemed like that story came out. It seemed to have some truth to it. And then all of a sudden, they've been trying to cleanse it, even to the point that Jesse Waters took down the video that he made statements about that. Does anybody know the bottom of that? And do you guys trust, even in the audience, I like to hear it in the chat, do you guys trust John Ratcliffe? I think he had the information on election fraud with Biden, and I think he did shit. We kept hearing he was going to do something about it, and nothing happened.
Well, that was the whole purpose of January 6th, to thwart Ratcliffe from speaking at confirmation of the election. But regardless, no, I don't trust him. I don't like him. But even like, all right, I'm all about freeing Cuba. They should. It's about time we should. But they're talking about possibly indicting the former president, who's like 99 years old. Dude's gonna die soon. Indict him for what?
Over downing 30 planes. I'm sorry, over downing planes 30 years ago. They're going after for something from 30 years ago. You can't find anything. You can't find anything else.
I mean, that's Raul Castro. That's the brother of Fidel. But maybe they're, I don't know. Is it a pressure thing to? I know the grandchildren want Cuba to be freed. I think they're for it. So I don't know. Let's see what the holdup is.
I think most of the people in Cuba want to be free. I mean, that was the thing that drove me nuts about the Iran thing. Like, they killed 45,000 people who were protesting, and meanwhile, it's like we're going over to war. What's going on with the people? They're still killing people over there in a regime that doesn't exist anymore. You got a whole
where, Cuba?
In Iran, and then on Cuba, you got a whole island of people who, are begging to come here because they don't want to live there with 1950s Chevys that they got to, keep rolling. I mean, I don't know. It used to, when you wanted to take over.
Hold on, you talk about those Chevys though. If they do get free, they can bring those Chevys over here and sell them for buku dollars.
Yeah, it'd be worth a bank. But I mean, if you got a population that wants to be free, I thought that the way we used to do this was we used to kind of lean on them, and whether it was arming them or freeing them of the regime, and then finding, I don't see that happening. I'm curious as to know what's going on in Iran. If the people want to be free there from that regime, I don't know. Have they been too indoctrinated because it's been since 1979 living under Ayatollahs and all the Sharia law bullshit? Is it too much to get the people to say they want to be free? What's going on in Cuba? Cuba, I would think, would be a completely different story. They're getting on rafts to come here and vote Republican, which is why we don't ever want to let them vote, but they want to let everybody else vote. So I'm just confused as to the messaging and how we're doing all this.
Well, the Democrats are against freeing Cuba because that would just drive more of the Latin vote and up with Republicans. So, I mean.
Yeah, but I think Mike brings a valid point. At the end of the day, I understand why the Iranian people are probably operating the way they are, because sometimes you have to wonder about the U.S. We step into these conflicts. We make this big, appearance, and then all of a sudden we're gone. You look at what happened in Afghanistan. We were supposed to be doing all these things, and we had that ugly pullout, and we basically didn't even save the people that had been helping us a long time. They didn't get on planes. A lot of those people were, murdered after we left. There were people that had worked directly with us to try to fix Afghanistan. We didn't help them. We left them behind, and now they're dead. So as an Iranian, you have to worry about being too vocal, because let's face it, the minute the U.S. stops, and right now we're allegedly under a ceasefire, which is just bullshit. It's ceasefire in name only. I don't see the behavior. If you go look at the definition of ceasefire up on any of the search engines, you're going to see that what we're doing isn't really considered a ceasefire. If you just go off the definition of a ceasefire, he's doing that because, of course, there was no official commitment to being in a war. The Congress wants to use that as a bludgeon. They're not going to go along with Donald Trump, even if they think it's good for the people of Iran. But wouldn't you be afraid to be vocal and come out and
No, it's a
say,
great,
we don't
it's a
want
great
this.
point. It's a great point because it made me think though when you were saying that, Lance, is our track record sucks. It's gotten worse over time, and it's gotten extremely worse with the media. Because if you think about a national security threat, it's our mainstream media. It's these kids protesting. Because you're right. If you're over in Iran and you're thinking, we go along with this, Donald Trump might only be in office for another 3 or 2.5 years. And then what? When they get a Newsom in there, they're out of here. They're going to leave us hanging. You're right. When you look at the media, how complicit they are and just kind of stirring things up, we don't have the stability in this country politically right now to make somebody else feel secure about the decisions that they make with us. That's a great point.
Correct.
And if you think about it from the outside looking in, our media has been so complicit in confusing the shit out of everybody around the world to show just how fucked up we are as an American society right now. I probably wouldn't want to work with us either.
Yeah, I mean, you're fickle and you have to worry about the consequences because 1 minute we're all in and the next minute we're like, oh, we're pulling out, we're done. And nothing really got completed. We've done this with Iran. We've been in these kind of negotiations with them prior to this. They've never proved themselves to have a high level of integrity. They just, whenever there is something like a ceasefire or a holdback, it's because they want to rearm. They wanted to reopen and dig out all their missile silos. They did a pretty good job of that. Supposedly they've got control of 70% of their missiles back. And that's the issue. And I think this is a pattern with us that I don't know that we can be fully trusted as a partner. And it's always the bravado. It reminds me of the big guy that's got a big mouth in a bar, isn't really good at fighting, but because he's been going to the gym, he thinks he can just pop off his mount and he yells and screams and he's really loud. And because he's the loudest one, he's able to intimidate. And the loudest guy is never the most dangerous guy. It's the quiet ones you have to worry about if you're into an interaction in a fight. Because the quiet ones are the ones that already know what their skill level is. But the U.S. has done this over and over again. And I think here we are again. We went to China, to discuss the Strait of Hormuz. Of course, China doesn't want to pay a tariff. They don't want Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz. Iran wants to control it because it gives them, a lot of leverage. And again, we've allowed them to continue to make money on Bitcoin. They're mining nonstop still. They're still selling that on the market. So they've got this, they created a second income stream. They knew oil wasn't enough. And what did they do? They created crypto mining. So the minute, even though the oil is shut down, they've still got this cash flow. And if you were the U.S., why didn't you strike the power grid? Why didn't you strike? They know where all the crypto mining locations are. What's the real plan? Is it because there's an ulterior motive that they want to seize that Bitcoin? Is that part of the operation, or they don't want to lose 3 to 5% of the hash rate by striking those facilities? It's an immediate cash flow. To me, it's common sense we would have hit that. So I don't know. There's so much stuff that right now I'm not getting what I voted for.
All right, let's go next because Lance, you remember Maduro's tracksuit, the gray Nike?
I do.
Well,
I do.
Fucking, did you see this, Mike? Rubio was wearing that same tracksuit on their way to China. Did you see it?
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, let's play it.
I think it's great.
It's funny.
Secretary Rubio in the briefing room the other day, and what did you think?
You're talking about his outfit?
Yeah, that's it.
I thought he looked very good in the outfit. Sweatsuit. I don't know if I'd do it, but I thought he looked very good. I think he's outstanding. I thought he was good. I mean, I saw every word of it. I thought
Back to what you were saying before about
It'd be cool if Trump threw on some fucking sweats and a tee or a sweatshirt on a long trip like that. Be comfortable. Why not?
You'll never see him in public in jeans. There's, I think, one picture floating around of Donald Trump in jeans from like the 90s or something. I think I put it up on the show once because, he looks odd in that. But Rubio, I love the fact that Rubio does this because it's kind of Trump-esque if you think about it. Everybody was talking about Vance and he's not enough like Trump or he's this and that. So there's only one Trump. But, Rubio or Vance reminds me of like Trump light. But Rubio with the digs, and every time he does the digs like that and something like that, Rubio's like the younger version of Trump. If this was Trump in his 30s or 40s, I think that's what you would say.
I have to be honest. I was very concerned about Marco Rubio in the beginning, but I like him a lot. The only thing I don't like about Marco Rubio is Susie Wiles. I don't like her involvement. I don't think that she is I don't think she is what you see. I think Susie Wiles, in my opinion, I would have told her when she took the leave, I would have said, hey, it's great. I appreciate the service. We're going to move on. But of course, she's so entrenched in the administration I hear a lot of things. A lot of people are concerned about her. That a lot of the push from behind the scenes, and even the people in the White House that we're finding out are pushing back on the administration behind the scenes. There was a bunch of news we covered this week about that. It appears that she is the one that's behind the hiring of those individuals. So I don't really know, why she is being held responsible for some of that, but
she ran all of his events, and she has Donald Trump's trust. I'll say the same thing about Susie Wiles that I said about Pam Bondi, because people were complaining about Pam Bondi, and I said, you got to go to the top. If she's there, when Bondi was there, she was there because Trump wanted her there. The moment he didn't want her there, he got rid of her. And Susie Wiles is going to be around for as long as she has Donald Trump's trust. You can't be mad at her. You got to go to the top on this one. She is a trusted aide. He's not getting rid of her, at least anytime that I could see soon. And if it happens, you can prove me wrong. But she was there from the start. She was there running all his events. She was pretty much responsible for his second campaign. So I don't know. People tell me they don't like somebody. I go, well, you don't know her. I mean, I was told to get in touch with Susie Wiles long before she became the chief of staff over there at the White House. But she's his right-hand person, and if you want her gone, you better go to the boss.
Yeah. All right. Well, we mentioned Maxine Waters earlier.
Well, yeah. You know what? Let's just finish out with the last thing with Obama. Let's go out on a funny note.
Okay. Well. Okay. If that's the way you want to go, let's do it.
I know Mike has to go.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's rock and roll.
All right, talk about it, and I'll play it.
Oh no, I thought you were going to jump in.
Okay, Obama says the quiet part out loud. I'm just going to play the clip. I'm not even going to tell you what it's about.
My wife's penis is about this big. And to be honest, having a wife with a huge penis is actually quite the challenge, not just for my butt, but also for like tucking it and shit, like taping it to her leg and things like that. I mean, we're trying to go out dancing and all of a sudden this huge dangling dong starts moving in her pants and shit. And people notice the dangling dong. They all stare at Michelle's dangling dong. There's no way of hiding it. That thing is huge. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Yep. The quiet part out loud. Of course, I love AI. I found that clip. I couldn't help myself. It's just one of those things that you see and you think, man, I love AI at different times. This is one of the reasons I love AI. Mike, any comments?
Just when I tell my audience that we sit and talk about real issues all day, and on those other shows,
exactly.
Listen, you got to have fun while politicking, bro. If it ain't fun, it's not worth doing it. So you got to make fun of them here and there.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
They got the sauce from us the whole show. So it's all right. We sent a little something at the end. We try to start off with something funny. We did it with the guy driving with the toilet and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's Friday, man. And on a funny note.
It's bookends.
Don't hate the players, Mike. Hate the game. Don't hate the players. Hate the game, bro.
See, now in comedy, it's different, George. And I see how you guys do this, because in comedy, you learn something when you do this for 25 years. You always open with your best joke and you end with your second best joke. And the middle is just filler. As long as you end on a real, but then I see what you're doing there.
That's it. We've got to end on a good note. All right, listen, if you guys love the show, number one, the first thing I'm going to tell you is go follow the Michael Schwartz Show. One of the best shows on Rumble, no doubt about it. He does an amazing job. Go buy his books. Common Sense would tell you get the books from the smart guys. He's written some great books, and I think they're well worth a read. And at the end of the day, of course, his show is always worth watching. We appreciate when he raises. So the easiest way to say thank you if you enjoyed the show is to hit that follow button. Hit it for Mike Schwartz. Hit the follow button over here for the Big Mig. There's thousands and thousands of you tuning in. We'd like to see thousands and thousands of boosted follows. For the new followers this week, thank you very much for you guys. It's a vote of confidence from you. We thank you for that you love the show enough that you would give your time, which is the most valuable commodity you have. So thank you very much. If you can do a paid subscription, fantastic. We know it's a tough economy. It's $5 a month. Rumble Rant tips are always greatly appreciated. All that stuff goes back to running these shows. Of course, everything you can do to propel the show to the front. Leave a comment on your way out the door underneath the show. That's not in the chat, but leave a comment under the show if you enjoyed the show and you love what we're doing, or if there's a specific topic you'd like us to cover or anything else. And don't forget to follow Mike Schwartz on X. Follow G. Ballantine, Lance Miliaccio, and the Big Mig Show. Those are top priorities because those follows all add up. We need as much social media push as we can get. And of course, any Rumble Rant tips and anything in our Rumble wallet is always a way of thanking us. We put a lot of work into these shows. It may not seem like it, but we do spend a lot of time online, as does Mike, to build these shows. It's not easy. It's a labor of love because, of course, monetizing these shows is always the struggle, always trying to figure out how to cover everything and move forward and get paid for the work we do. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We appreciate you. Mike and George, Mike first, last words for the audience.
Hey, have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see George on for breakfast, and hope to see you guys soon in 2 weeks.
All right, y'all have a blessed weekend. Stay frosty out there. Kelly, I'll see you Sunday. Mike too.
Mike.
I might have to let it drop. Said got it too hella big, had to put it back again, like said had to put it hella big, had to put it.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At CSPOA.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever. Visit CSPOA.org and join the Sheriff's Citizens Posse today. Make a difference. Stand for freedom. That's CSPOA.org. Your country, your fight, your future.
What if you could predict your financial future? And what if you could trade on it? Introducing Block Trust IRA. The future in your hands. An astonishing 88,000 millionaires were created last year from the Bitcoin boom, and you could be next. Block Trust IRA is the only crypto management firm powered by AI-driven strategies, ranked #1 in the world by Bitcoin Magazine. The Block Trust IRA platform is built for everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors. Predictive AI technology that was once only reserved for insiders and elites is now available to you. It's time to leave the old buy and hold strategies behind. Your assets are protected with military-grade security, offline cold storage, and $200 million in insurance. Visit BlockTrustIRA.com to book your free consultation and ask how to claim up to $2,500 in deposit bonuses today. Bitcoin changed the game. AI changes the strategy.
Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to the Prepper Bar from PrepperBar.com, the most unique precious metals product we have seen in a long time. These 62-gram bars are perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 different sizes to fit a multitude of needs. Whether it be from asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade, the Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all the precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively made here in the USA and selling out fast. Available in both gold and silver, these slim Prepper Bars fit neatly in your wallet, and their utility enables use in any situation.
Forged through rigorous training and honed by the finest instructors on Earth, these canine units serve beside our nation's warriors as they fight to preserve what we cherish. When these warriors complete their duty, the Warrior Dog Foundation provides them with a home deserving of the service they've given us all. At our state-of-the-art kennels, they receive rehabilitation and care suitable for heroes, because that's what they are. Be a part of giving them a future today. Visit WarriorDogFoundation.org.